Hey, what's cracking everybody? Welcome back to Computer Games Hardware. Today on the channel, we are doing a quick companion video to our CPU overclocking and undervolting video. So if you didn't check that one out, check it out. I overclocked and undervolted my 9950X CPU, and today we are going to be overclocking and undervolting my Radeon RX 6800 XT. It's the XFX model. It's been serving me well for quite some time. So with these GPUs, you know, they're getting a little bit long in the tooth. So let's try and squeeze as much performance as we can get out of it. First thing you want to do is update your Adrenalin driver CPUs. I've already done that. This one is the 25.6.3 version. So it's just come out. It's the last one for the month. I've done another revision. And so you can go to AMD's support page to check this one out. Go find it. I believe it's an optional driver, but it's got the it's got updates and FSR4 for the latest games and things like that. Not that that's going to matter here, because this is a 6800 XT, but if you're running the running an overclock on a 700 series or a 900 series, you can follow along and apply the overclocks that apply to your GPUs. Let's kick off and we'll just quickly run through some of the settings. All right, so first off, you can see that I am in the performance tab in the Adrenalin drivers, and I've moved to the tuning page. So we are doing global tuning here. And first up, you've got a couple of different options. So one really good thing about the Adrenalin drivers is you've got a lot of options for overclocking, not only your GPU but your CPU as well. So you can see here under system, you can put an auto overclock on your complete system. So if you have a look here, we've got tuning control, and you can set it to default, which will default your CPU and GPU settings, or you can auto overclock it, which will apply an auto overclock to your CPU and your GPU. Now, we're not going to do that today because I want to show you how to do it. So we are going to go custom manual tuning. That will open up the options for the CPU and then the GPU as well. So let's quickly take a look at the CPU. Right, so you can see it there. The CPU has the tuning control, and if you checked out our other video, you will know that we overclocked and undervolted our CPU. So you can see that we've got our offset there, where voltage is running nice, and we're running at a pretty smooth temperature. So we're not doing much now in the Adrenalin drivers, but we have our overclock on our CPU already set. So we did that in the BIOS. We're not going to touch it here today. What we're really here for is our GPU. So you can see it's our AMD Radeon RX 6800 XT, and we are going to overclock it today. You do have some really cool options with your GPU as well. So as you can see, we're currently in the default, so we're running stock right at the moment. But you've got some pre-tuned settings that you can just click and then never worry about again. And if you're new to overclocking and stuff like that, this is a great option. Check out what the undervolt of your GPU does. That will make your GPU run cooler so it can boost for longer. Or you can apply an overclock, a system overclock with AMD's own algorithm, and it will overclock your CPU and you'll get a little bit of performance. You can also overclock the VRAM as well, which is a neat little feature. We're not going to do that today. We're going to go into manual tuning. Now, there are some other presets as well. You've got some quiet and balance presets. So if you look there, it says for the quiet, improves your GPU power efficiency with a minor reduction in performance. You can go into balanced as well, and that will put your GPU in a more balance position. Today, we are going to manually overclock and undervolt our CPU. So the first thing you've got to do is put it into manual tuning mode. And you'll see there that a couple of options popped up there. So as you can tell, smart access memory is already enabled. So that is enabled by default in most BIOS these days. When smart access memory, when SAM was introduced, you had to flick that on in the BIOS and sometimes in the Adrenalin drivers as well. But these days it's on by default, and that's what we want. So as you can see, we've got some GPU tuning, we've got some fan tuning, we've got some power tuning, and we can even tune our VRAM. So first thing I like to do is just open everything up so I can see the full spec of what we're working with. So let's do that now. As you can see, right, we've got our advanced controls. We want those on, right? So the advanced controls, like, switch these over from the minimum frequencies, which is a sort of percentage slider, or what you can do is switch it over to the minimum and maximum megahertz frequencies that you want. And that's what you want to do because you want to set them manually. Okay, so let's go back into default for a second and just crack that open again. So you can see they're both set at 100 and 100, and they're just a percentage. So we open that up and that brings the frequency out. Okay, now here's the first thing that we want to do. Let me enable our fan control. Okay, so you can see there we've got our fan control. There's got some tuning there, but what I want to do is look at the maximum and minimum frequencies. So this is a part of the overclock that we're going to set, and this can be as big or as little as you want it. So there's a couple of things that you can do here. So you can see that we're at 2389. So what I probably want to do, and it gives you the advice, adjust the maximum allowable frequency of the GPU. Actual clock speeds during workloads may vary depending on the intensity of the workload of the GPU power limit. Okay, so we can set this, and a very important hint there, you want to increase the power limit. So go right at the bottom here, you'll find the power tuning. That is set at 0 at that section, and you can pump that right up to 15. Okay, so that's going to give you some extra power to use with your GPU, and you'll need it. Worth noting, that is a pretty reasonable limit within the Adrenalin drivers. You can get other software and you can boost that power limit even further, but we're not going to do it today. I think that the Adrenalin drivers are pretty good in terms of the feature set they give you for overclocking, undervolting, and all that stuff. So we're going to do it right in the Adrenalin drivers. That's all you need, really. There are plenty of people on YouTube that you can look for advanced, extreme overclocking and stuff like that. We just want to set our overclock and undervolt so we're running nice and fast and cool, so we can stream and do stuff like that. We want to set the minimum frequency. So the minimum frequency is right at the bottom at 500 megahertz at the moment. So what that does is it means that your GPU can boost anywhere between this number and this number here. So what we want to do to get the best performance out of our GPU is shorten the distance between there and there. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put that to 2380. So right up to it. Okay. And you can use the slider. You can also type it in, or you can use your keyboard, which I like to do. So we'll put that right at 2380. This is set to 2389, and I'm going to set that at 2480. See if we can, there we go. Okay, 2480. So we have 100 megahertz delta between our minimum frequency and our maximum frequency. Okay, so that's going to get you the best performance, but it's also going to introduce a little bit of instability. So if you're not sure, or you set this overclock and it keeps crashing, or it's not stable, or you're dropping frames and things like that, you can bump this minimum frequency down, because the bigger delta, the more stability you'll have. So that's one of the first points you'll want to look at, but let's keep it pretty tight just for now, and we're going to set that at 2380 and 2480. You can look around on the internet, you can look at 3D Mark and stuff like that for your specific GPU to see what the maximum frequency is. So look, the maximum frequency on the 6800 XT is around 2400 megahertz. So I'm pushing it a little bit over, but you need to adjust these things to cater for your specific GPU. So we're going to try that. That is our overclock. That's looking pretty good. So our minimum frequency is 2380 and our maximum frequency is 2480. So here it says, the little hint that it gives you is adjust the voltage offset across the entire clock range of the GPU. For example, reducing the value from its default value by 50 millivolts will reduce the operating voltage by 50 millivolts across all frequencies. Voltage reductions will increase performance, but may also cause instability. Okay, so here's another thing that we have to think about. So the hint there, when you auto overclock your GPU, it will drop to probably 1100 millivolts, and that will be the overclock. We can get it down pretty low, I would say. So let's go down to, I reckon that my GPU would probably run at 1030 millivolts, which is pretty impressive. I reckon it's got the guts to do that, but I sort of don't want to deal with the instability. So my guess would be it would run fine for a couple of hours at 1030 millivolts, but if there was a transient spike or something like that, I might lose some power. So what I'm going to do is set this a little higher. So if AMD's auto overclock is sort of at 1100, I'm going to go somewhere in between. So I'm going to go 1060. Well, let's see how that does. Okay, so I think that's fairly reasonable. That's a sort of a good halfway point between 1030. We could probably go down a little bit lower, but I'm not sure we would get any performance gains. We would only be introducing instability. So I'm going to leave it there. Okay, now that we've got our GPU tuned, let's apply our changes. So if we stuff anything up, we don't have to set it over and over again. All right, now that we've saved it, let's go over to our fan tuning. Okay, so as you can see, we've got 0 RPM that is currently enabled. We have our advanced controls disabled, so we're going to turn that on, and you can see that gives us a few temperature gauges and things like that. So you can leave it if you like the fan max speed to go to 75 or 80 or whatever it is. You can do that, and it uses AMD's own algorithm. I like to set my fan speed, so we go into the fan control, and one thing I like to do is turn off the 0 RPM. So the the 0 RPM allows you to save power and reduce noise by letting the GPU idle when it's in the 0 RPM zone. So here it is at, you know, I think that's right about like 45 degrees or whatever. Before it gets to that temperature, it's not going to do much. I like to turn it off, so we'll hit and we'll apply the changes there, and then you can see it opens up our full fan curve. So one thing that I don't like to do is get too crazy with my fan curve. So what I like to do is keep it pretty quick and dirty. So what I want to do here is I want to put it on the temperature on the lowest denominator. I think it goes down to 25. So I'm just going to put in 20 and just see what happens. It goes to 25. So the minimum is 25. So then I'm going to go 40. So let's do 15 degrees increments. 40, so let's go to 55 there. Okay. 70 degrees here, and we'll just drop that to 85. Okay, that looks pretty cool. I'm happy with that. Now you can leave this. I like to go, you can either do it like this in 30, 45, maybe 60, and leave that at 75. Not too shabby. That is gonna keep it nice and cool and quiet. So I think that's a really reasonable fan curve. It's, you know, it's right in the middle there, the 62 degrees mark. So it's good, and then it levels off at the top. I think that's pretty cool. I usually run it a little bit higher, but let's test it. And if it doesn't give us enough performance, we'll bump up the fan curve a little bit. All right, you guys happy with that? Next up, we've got our VRAM tuning. So with the memory timing, you can improve the timings on the memory, and basically for me, you can leave it at default or fast timing. This is the only thing I actually like to do with my timing. So I put that at fast timing. I do enable it so you can bump up the frequency. I used to be able to get it up to 66, so sort of halfway, and I would get excellent performance out of it. I can't do that anymore. I leave it right down at its base frequency of 200 megahertz. What I've noticed though is that it wasn't giving me as much performance gains as I thought. So I'm happy to leave it right down there. Okay, you guys happy with that? That looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna apply those changes. What we will do is we will run a 3D Mark benchmark. All right, so just bear with me. We'll kick that off right now. All right, guys, so let's see what we've got here. Oh, we've got a 10.449, so we're about 40 off our very best, which is good. This thing's been running for a little while as well, so I suspect that we'll actually beat our result, maybe even get a legendary result. We're only
That's funny, Dad.
yeah, we're off. So we've got the kids waiting on me because it's movie night. So we're going to go eat some popcorn and watch some movies. But as you can see, the graphics score is 9,950. So that's 50 points off a legendary there. So I'm pretty excited about that. And if you have a look, the CPU score is 14,608, which is pretty impressive. So I am going to lock those in. I'm also going to run a stress test in 3D Mark, so I will put the screenshot or whatever up there. All right, here we go, guys. Frame rate stability as at 99.5%. Best loop score was 3,760. First one, the worst one was 3,740, and we did 20 loops. So pretty happy with that. But now I gotta go eat some popcorn and hang out. So I'm pretty sure that's gonna be a pretty stable overclock. So I'm gonna hit the, let's just have a look at it real quickly. All right, so there we go. Back to the tuning. So there are our settings there, locked in. Right, so we've got our 2380 for our minimum frequency, 2480 for our max. We're still locked in at 1060 millivolts, and our really reasonable fan speed from 15 to 75% is really holding out well. So I'm really happy with those settings. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching. See you next time, guys. Bye. Come on, say bye, mate. Now say bye here. Bye.
Bye.
Look there. Say bye. Bye. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you.
Is Daddy's computers good?
Yeah.
What do you like about it?
Streaming.
Yeah, the games, right? All right, let's go watch a movie. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.